For centuries, humanity's place in the galaxy had been a forgotten story. Alien species, powerful and vast, had wiped out the human colonies during the Great War. Earth was no more, and all that remained were whispers of the human race scattered in old records and legends. No one thought much of it, not anymore. But in the vastness of space, something unexpected was about to happen. A small ship appeared on the outskirts of an alien fleet, quietly but steadily, like a shadow creeping into the light. At first, no one paid it any mind. Ships came and went in this part of space all the time. But this one was different. It wasn't supposed to exist. The Eclipse, a human warship long thought destroyed, had reappeared out of nowhere. It had no business being there. The alien ships on patrol, having ignored countless warnings of human existence, now began to track it. They knew something was wrong. On board the Eclipse, Commander Jane Albright stood in the dark control room, watching as the alien ships drew nearer. Her hands gripped the cold metal of the console, her eyes scanning the blinking lights. She hadn't seen this many alien ships since the war ended, when humanity had been erased from the galaxy. She let out a slow breath, her mind sharp, calculating. She wasn't afraid, not anymore. She couldn't afford fear. This was their moment, the moment they had been waiting for. "Prepare for contact," Jane ordered, her voice steady but low. The crew, a mixture of veterans and survivors, worked in silent coordination, knowing exactly what to do. They had trained for years, secretly rebuilding the Eclipse with technology no one but humans could understand, technology that had been lost after the war. They weren't just here to survive. They were here to remind the galaxy of who the humans were and what they were capable of. Meanwhile, the alien fleet was in chaos. They had intercepted the Eclipse's signal and begun to piece together the impossible. A human warship? After all these years? No one had ever believed humanity could have a chance against their empire. The aliens had believed themselves invincible, their weapons far superior to anything humanity had ever created. And yet, here was the Eclipse, old but powerful, and heading straight for them. Commander Jane watched as the alien ships slowed their approach, forming a defensive perimeter around the Eclipse. It was clear they were confused but prepared for anything. They knew something powerful was on board, but they didn't know what. The warship wasn't transmitting anything useful. It had no identity, no known code. It was as if the Eclipse had never existed, as if it was a ghost from the past. The aliens hesitated, unsure whether to engage or hold back. Jane knew they were running out of time. The Eclipse could only survive for so long without being detected. If the aliens figured out what it carried, they would never stand a chance. But Jane's mission wasn't just about survival. It was about sending a message so loud and clear that the galaxy would hear it and remember. The humans were back, and they were not afraid. "Activate the main weapon," Jane ordered, her voice firm. She glanced over to her second-in-command, Lieutenant Mark, who nodded and moved quickly. He knew exactly what needed to be done. The weapon was humanity's final secret, hidden deep within the ship. It was unlike anything the aliens had ever seen. Mark had never fully understood how it worked, but it didn't matter. All that mattered was that it was ready, and it was their only chance. The crew held their breath as the hum of the weapon powered up. On the screen in front of them, the alien ships were closing in, still unsure of what the Eclipse was capable of. Jane's eyes narrowed as the first blast of energy shot out from the ship, a bright flash that lit up the dark space around them. The alien fleet immediately retaliated, firing their weapons at the Eclipse. But it was too late. The Eclipse's weapon was not a simple blast. It wasn't something they could block with shields or destroy with their lasers. It was a pulse, a wave of energy that could disrupt and scramble all technology within its range. The aliens tried to counter, but the wave hit them faster than they could react. Ships flickered, their systems crashing, their weapons malfunctioning. For a moment, everything went dark, and for the first time in centuries, the humans had the advantage. Jane's heart raced as she watched the chaos unfold on the screen. This was it. The aliens had been struck, and now they were vulnerable. The Eclipse was vulnerable too, but for the first time in a long time, the humans had a fighting chance. "We have to finish this," Jane whispered to herself. She knew the aliens would recover quickly. This was their only chance to strike a decisive blow. The Eclipse's engines roared to life as the crew navigated through the disoriented alien fleet. The humans had one goal: to make sure the aliens never forgot what it felt like to underestimate them again. As the warship cut through the alien ships, firing strategically at their weakest points, Jane felt something deep inside her stir. This wasn't just about revenge. It wasn't about getting back what humanity had lost. It was about showing the galaxy that humanity had something the aliens didn't: a will to fight, a spirit that refused to die. But then, just as the battle seemed to turn in humanity's favor, something unexpected happened. A new alien ship appeared, larger and more advanced than anything the Eclipse had ever encountered. It was the flagship of the alien empire, and it was heading straight for the warship. Jane's heart sank. This was no longer a simple battle. This was a fight for their survival, and the odds had just shifted against them. "Brace for impact," Jane shouted, her voice carrying through the ship's intercom. The crew scrambled to their stations, preparing for the worst. But Jane stood firm, her eyes fixed on the incoming alien ship. The war was far from over. In that moment, everything hung in the balance. Would humanity's forgotten warship survive, or would the aliens finally end what they had started so many years ago? No one could say for sure, but one thing was certain: the Eclipse would never be forgotten again. The galaxy had long forgotten the humans. The last battle of the Great War, where Earth had been destroyed, seemed like an ancient memory now. The aliens had swept across the stars, claiming planets and wiping out humanity without mercy. For centuries, the human race was believed to have vanished completely. There was no hope. The galaxy had moved on. But one ship was about to change everything. A small, unmarked human warship appeared on the edge of an alien-controlled system. It was an old ship, barely hanging together after years of hiding in the shadows of space. Its name, Vanguard, was known only to a few survivors, a ship built from the remnants of humanity's final defense. The aliens, unaware of what was approaching, didn't give it a second thought. But the moment the ship crossed into alien territory, a warning signal was sent. "Red alert, humanity's last hope is incoming." On board the Vanguard, Commander Isaac Carter stood in front of the large view screen, watching the alien ships in the distance. His crew was scattered across the ship, preparing for a battle they had been training for their entire lives. The warship was their only weapon, their only hope to send a message to the galaxy. It was built from technology thought lost to time, with hidden weapons and secret systems that no one in the galaxy knew about, not even the aliens. "Get ready," Isaac muttered to himself, his voice barely audible. The Vanguard had been away from home for far too long, but now, after years of silence, the crew had returned. Their mission was simple: strike at the heart of the alien empire and remind them that humanity was never truly gone. But Isaac knew there was nothing simple about it. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and the odds were stacked against them. But the humans had one thing that the aliens could never prepare for: surprise. The alien fleet had no idea what was about to hit them. Their forces, led by the ruthless General Zorath, were used to fighting large, well-equipped armies. They laughed at the small human ship, thinking it a mere ghost, a relic of the past. Zorath himself was confident that nothing could touch his empire. "Let them come," he said with a cruel smile. "We will crush them as we did before." But Zorath was wrong. As the Vanguard approached, it began broadcasting a single message: "Red alert, humanity's last hope." The alien ships grew still, a sense of unease spreading through the fleet. The last thing they expected was a human warship, and the message sent a shockwave through their ranks. What was this? How could humanity have survived? What kind of weapon did they possess? Zorath's face darkened. He ordered his ships into formation, preparing for what he thought would be an easy fight. Meanwhile, Isaac watched the alien fleet closing in. His heart raced, but his mind stayed calm. The Vanguard had one chance to make an impact. They couldn't afford a long battle. Isaac turned to his tactical officer, Lieutenant Mira Hughes, who was watching the alien ships with a mixture of focus and fear. "Mira, open the comms. Let them hear it." Mira hesitated for a moment, then nodded. The screen flickered, and a loud voice rang out through the alien ship's communication channels. "We are humanity. You thought we were gone. You thought you had won. But now, we are here to show you the cost of underestimating us." The alien fleet shifted uneasily, but it was too late. The Vanguard's main cannon charged up, glowing with a fierce blue energy. Zorath's fleet tried to respond, firing their weapons, but the human warship was faster. The first blast of energy hit one of the lead alien ships, tearing it apart with ease. The alien fleet fell into chaos, scrambling to regroup, but they had no idea how to handle this new enemy. Isaac's voice rang out again. "We fight for our survival. We fight for Earth. You will regret underestimating us." The Vanguard was no ordinary ship. While the aliens had advanced technology, humanity's warship was built for guerrilla warfare, designed to be unpredictable and deadly in ways the aliens couldn't imagine. The ship turned and weaved between enemy fire, using its advanced stealth systems to avoid most attacks. When the Vanguard did strike, it did so with ruthless precision, disabling alien ships with pinpoint accuracy. But Isaac knew they couldn't keep this up forever. Their energy was limited, and the alien forces were vast. They had to make their mark and then retreat. "We're running low on power," shouted Mira. "If we don't finish this soon, we'll be sitting ducks." Isaac's mind raced. The weapon they were using, the human weapon, was more powerful than anything the aliens could throw at them, but it wasn't invincible. There had to be a way to end this fight on their terms. He glanced at the star map on the console, then his eyes narrowed. There was one chance. He turned to Mira and gave a sharp order: "Prepare the secondary weapon." Now, Mira didn't ask questions. She immediately began entering commands, and the ship's energy systems shifted. The Vanguard's secondary weapon, hidden deep within the ship's core, was a prototype. It was risky, untested, and powerful enough to cripple an entire fleet. But if it worked, it would send a message no one would ever forget. As the alien ship circled around, Isaac knew there was no turning back. The Vanguard was about to give everything it had. Mira activated the weapon, and suddenly, the ship's hull lit up with a bright, blinding pulse of energy. The alien fleet staggered as their systems began to fail, their weapons shutting down, their ships losing power. It was a perfect strike, one that left Zorath's fleet disoriented and vulnerable. Isaac could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him. This was their chance to make history, to show the galaxy that humanity wasn't gone, that they could still fight back. As the remaining alien ships struggled to regain control, Isaac prepared to make their final move. They wouldn't just retreat, they would win this battle, and they would make sure the galaxy knew that humanity's last hope had come. But just as victory seemed within their grasp, a massive shadow loomed over them. Zorath's flagship, the largest and most advanced ship in the fleet, was closing in, its weapons charging. The battle was far from over, and Isaac knew that this last fight would be the most dangerous one yet. The Vanguard's crew had given everything, but would it be enough to defeat the alien empire once and for all? The galaxy had long been at war, with humans caught in the middle. The alien forces had overwhelmed Earth, and humanity had been driven to the edge of extinction. But there was a secret so powerful that the alien empire had no idea it even existed. It lay hidden deep in the heart of a forgotten human warship, the Relentless. No one, not even the remaining survivors of Earth, knew exactly what it carried. But today, that secret would come to light. The Relentless drifted silently through space, its engines barely making a sound. Its crew, a mix of seasoned warriors and young soldiers, had spent years in the shadows, waiting for the right moment. They had watched the galaxy change, watched as alien empires grew stronger, while humanity was slowly erased from the stars. But the crew of the Relentless knew something the galaxy didn't. Humanity had a weapon so powerful that it could tip the balance of the entire war. Commander Alice Hayes stood on the bridge of the Relentless, staring out into the cold expanse of space. She could feel the weight of the mission pressing on her. This wasn't just about winning a battle. It was about surviving, about sending a message that humanity would not fade into history without a fight. The ship's advanced systems hummed softly, and Alice's mind raced. They were getting close to their target, an alien stronghold, deep in the heart of enemy territory. But they weren't just attacking for revenge. They had a mission to deliver the hidden weapon, a secret so dangerous it could shatter the alien empire in one strike. "We're almost there," Alice said, her voice steady but tense. "Prepare for the final approach. The weapon needs to be activated the moment we're in range. No mistakes." Her crew nodded in unison. They had all trained for this moment, and they knew the risks. They were up against an enemy far stronger than anything humanity had ever faced. The alien forces, led by General Zarin, were ruthless and efficient. They had wiped out countless human colonies without mercy. But what they didn't know was that the Relentless carried something they could never anticipate: a weapon hidden away from the world for decades. As the Relentless closed in on the enemy stronghold, the tension on the bridge grew. The alien ships were massive, their weapons more advanced than anything the humans had. But the Relentless wasn't here to fight in the traditional sense. It wasn't here to face the aliens head-on. It was here to deliver something that would forever change the course of the war. "Target locked," Lieutenant Sarah Owens reported, her fingers flying over the controls. "We're in range, Commander." Alice's heart skipped a beat. This was it. The weapon, a mysterious piece of human technology, was ready to be unleashed. The crew had no idea exactly how it worked, only that it was their last chance to turn the tide of the war. The weapon was a mystery, even to them. It had been built long before their time, by scientists who had vanished along with Earth. Its purpose was unclear, but Alice trusted that it was exactly what they needed. "Activate it," Alice ordered, her voice sharp. Lieutenant Owens hesitated for a moment, then pressed the button. The ship's entire system hummed. A glowing blue light filled the room, pulsing in time with the beat of the Relentless's engines. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, without warning, the ship's power surged. The light intensified, and the air on the bridge seemed to thrum with energy. "It's working," Sarah shouted. "The weapon is powering up." Alice's eyes narrowed as she watched the alien fleet on the screen. They hadn't noticed yet. The Relentless was hidden in the darkness, cloaked by its advanced stealth technology. But that wouldn't last forever. Soon, the aliens would detect the ship's presence, and they would come for it. It was a race against time. The moment came sooner than Alice had expected. An alien ship, larger than any they had seen, appeared in the distance. It was moving directly toward them, its weapons charged and ready. General Exaron had arrived. The alien flagship's sensors flickered as it began scanning the area. It wouldn't be long before they found the Relentless. "We've got incoming," Sarah reported, her voice trembling. "They've detected us." Alice clenched her fists. There was no turning back now. "Activate the defense systems. We fight to the end. The weapon stays online no matter what." The battle began. The alien ships fired their weapons, unleashing a storm of energy blasts. The Relentless dodged and weaved, its powerful engines allowing it to move faster than the aliens could track. The crew fought back with everything they had, but they knew the real fight wasn't with the enemy ships. It was with the weapon, the hidden weapon that had been waiting for this moment. As the battle raged, the Relentless's weapon began to power up again. A low rumble filled the ship as the energy levels soared. Alice's eyes widened as she watched the screen. The weapon was almost ready. They were just moments away from unleashing its full power. But the aliens weren't giving up. The flagship, led by General Exaron himself, fired a devastating blast at the Relentless. The ship shook violently, alarms blaring as the hull began to crack. The crew was thrown off balance, but they held steady. The weapon was too important to fail now. "We can't hold them off much longer," shouted Sarah. "The Relentless is taking too much damage." Alice gritted her teeth. "We can do this. Activate the weapon now. No matter what happens, we must succeed." With a final push, the weapon surged to full power. The energy burst outward from the Relentless, a massive wave of blue light that engulfed everything in its path. The alien flagship was the first to fall, its systems shutting down instantly. One by one, the alien ships followed, their engines faltering, their weapons going dark. It was as if the very heart of their fleet had been ripped out. For a moment, everything was silent. The Relentless floated in the stillness, its weapon's energy finally fading away. Alice stood frozen, her eyes fixed on the screen. The alien fleet was gone, wiped out in an instant. But the cost had been high. The Relentless had taken heavy damage. The crew was battered, and the ship was barely functional. They weren't gone. They would fight to the very end, no matter the odds. And as the Relentless drifted into the unknown, the crew knew that this was only the beginning of their fight to reclaim the stars. The sky had always been blue. At least that was how it had been remembered before the invasion. Now, every day, the sky was a deep, blood-red hue. It was a reminder of the war, of the destruction, of the aliens who had come from the distant stars. No one knew why they had come or what they wanted, but one thing was clear: humanity had been left with little to fight back with. Almost everyone on Earth had been wiped out. The remaining survivors lived in the shadows, hiding beneath the ominous red sky, too afraid to venture into the open. But today, something was different. Something had changed. In the middle of the ruined city, Lieutenant Marcus Quinn stood at the top of a broken skyscraper, gazing out at the sky. The red clouds swirled, dark and ominous, as if the world itself was mourning its fate. For years, the survivors had kept quiet, living in the dark corners of the earth, trying to avoid the wrath of the alien invaders. But now, Marcus could feel it. Something was stirring. Something was coming. "They're moving," a voice said behind him. It was Sergeant Nina Reyes, his closest ally and the one person who had stood by him since the beginning of the war. She had a look of determination in her eyes, but Marcus could see the fear that hid behind them. "We've spotted a fleet, Commander." "They're coming." Marcus turned to face her, his eyes narrowing. "What do you mean, they're coming?" "They've been coming for years." "No," Nina said, her voice urgent. "This is different. These ships are much bigger. And they're heading straight for us." Marcus's heart sank. They had been hiding for so long, and now the aliens were making their move. It was hard to believe that anyone could stand against them. The technology of the invaders was unlike anything humanity had ever known: massive ships that could rain down destruction with a single blast, weapons that could melt entire cities in seconds. Yet, Marcus couldn't ignore the feeling that this time, the battle might be different. There was something about the way the fleet was coming, something that made him believe that maybe, just maybe, humanity had a chance. "Get the team together," Marcus ordered. "We're not running anymore." The rest of the survivors had gathered in the underground base, a place where they had remained hidden from the alien eyes above. But now, that safety was no longer enough. The battle was about to come to them. The enemy had always been able to track them, but there was something special about the location of their base, something the aliens hadn't figured out yet. For now, they still had the advantage of surprise. Inside the war room, Marcus and his team watched the incoming fleet on the screen. The alien ships were huge, their dark shapes looming against the red sky. But as the ships moved closer, something caught Marcus's attention. There was a faint glow, something off in the distance, hidden among the clouds. It was subtle, but it was there. "I'm not seeing this," Nina said, squinting at the screen. "What are you looking at?" "I don't know," Marcus replied, his voice uncertain. "But there's something out there. It's not like the alien ships. It's different." The rest of the team stared at the screen, unsure of what Marcus was referring to. But Marcus knew something. The glow was too perfect, too out of place to be a mistake. He'd seen that pattern before, back during the earliest days of the war, when the world still had hope. It was a signature of human technology, a mark left by something or someone who was still out there, waiting for the right moment. "I need a team to move out," Marcus said, standing up suddenly. "We're going after that signal." Nina immediately moved to his side. "You're not thinking of leaving, are you?" "The fleet is getting closer. We need to prepare for the worst." "I know," Marcus replied, his voice hard. "But if there's a chance, we need to take it. We can't let the aliens have it all." "Not yet." Nina didn't argue. She knew Marcus was right. They had to take risks if they were going to survive. With a team of 5 soldiers, they left the safety of the base and headed toward the source of the signal. The journey was dangerous, and every step they took seemed to make the red sky grow darker. The wind howled, carrying the scent of burning cities and destruction. Every corner was a potential threat, and every shadow could hide an enemy. Finally, after hours of cautious movement, they arrived at the location. It was an abandoned military bunker, half buried under the rubble of a collapsed skyscraper. Marcus felt a surge of hope as he approached. This place had been a stronghold during the early days of the war. If anyone had managed to survive, it would be here. The team moved inside, their weapons ready, eyes scanning every corner. The air was thick with dust, and the low hum of machinery could be heard in the background. It was clear that something had been left running here, something that had been hidden away for years. "Look at this," Nina said, pointing to a glowing panel on the wall. "It's still active." Marcus stepped forward and pressed a series of buttons, his fingers trembling slightly as he worked the controls. The panel flickered to life, and a map appeared on the screen. It showed a network of tunnels stretching deep beneath the surface, far beyond anything Marcus had ever seen. The map was old, but it was clear there was something down there. "There's more," Marcus said, his voice a whisper. "There's something beneath the city, something we didn't know about." The team exchanged nervous glances. If they followed the map, they would be deep in enemy territory. It was a dangerous decision, but Marcus knew it was the only chance they had. He turned to Nina. "Prepare the team." "We're going in," he said. As the team descended into the tunnels, the red sky outside seemed to grow even darker. The air was thick with uncertainty, and the walls seemed to pulse with an energy Marcus couldn't quite understand. As they moved deeper into the darkness, they began to feel a low, vibrating hum in the air, as if something was waiting. The deeper they went, the more they felt as though they were being drawn towards something. And then, finally, they reached the heart of it, the hidden weapon. It was unlike anything they had ever seen. A massive machine half buried in rubble, its power core still faintly glowing. Marcus stepped forward, knowing that the weapon was their last hope. But as he reached out to activate it, he heard a sound behind him, a low, guttural growl. They weren't alone. The world was on the brink of destruction. The alien forces, relentless and unforgiving, had swept across Earth with no mercy. Cities were reduced to rubble, entire nations wiped off the map, and humanity was hanging by a thread. Only a small band of survivors remained, hiding in the shadows, waiting for their chance to strike back. It seemed like all hope was lost, but deep inside the ruins of what was once a great city, one last group stood ready to face the invaders head-on. This was the final stand. Captain Ethan Rourke stood at the edge of the broken wall, staring out at the vast alien fleet hovering above. The sky was dark, filled with swirling clouds that seemed to pulse with energy. The ships, massive and menacing, cast long shadows over the land, their weapons primed and ready. Ethan knew they wouldn't wait much longer. The aliens were here to finish what they had started, and they wouldn't leave until Earth was nothing more than a memory. His heart pounded in his chest, the weight of responsibility heavy on his shoulders. He was the leader of the last resistance group, a ragtag team of soldiers, engineers, and civilians who had fought tooth and nail to survive this long. They had no advanced weapons, no armies to back them up, just their will to fight and the hope that they could still make a difference. "Captain," said Sergeant Lee Grant, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. "They're closing in. We don't have much time." Ethan nodded, his face hardening. The time for hiding was over. "We make our stand here. It's our only chance to take them down." Leah looked out over the battlefield, where their meager defenses were set up explosive charges, makeshift barricades, and a handful of old, barely functioning weapons. It wasn't much, but it was all they had. And it had to be enough. "We don't stand a chance against their ships," Leah said, voice barely above a whisper. "They'll destroy us before we even get close." Ethan's gaze remained fixed on the horizon. He could feel the weight of her words, but he refused to let doubt settle in. "Maybe," he replied, "but we have something they don't." Leah raised an eyebrow. "What's that?" "Surprise," he said with a grim smile. "And determination." Ethan turned to face the rest of his team. They were gathered in the ruined courtyard, each one preparing for what was about to come. The faces of men and women who had lost everything stared back at him, eyes filled with fear and courage in equal measure. Some were ready to fight, others were ready to die. But all were ready for the end. "Listen up," Ethan called, his voice carrying across the courtyard. "This is it. This is our last shot. The aliens think they've already won. They think we're broken, that we've given up. But they're wrong. We're still here. And we're going to show them exactly what happens when you push humanity to the edge. We fight. We fight until our last breath." A murmur of agreement rippled through the group. The tension in the air was thick, the sound of distant alien ships rumbling overhead like thunder. Ethan's heart pounded, but he remained focused. They had no time to waste. They had to act before the aliens launched their final assault. Without another word, Ethan signaled his team to take their positions. The alien fleet was getting closer now, and he knew that once the battle began, there would be no turning back. As his team moved into position, Ethan quickly reviewed their plan. It wasn't much, but it was all they had. The first wave of attackers would be human soldiers with explosive, sacrificial soldiers meant to create a path for the rest of the team to move forward. Behind them, a group of engineers would work to disable the alien ship's weapon systems. The last group, led by Ethan himself, would storm the alien command center and take down their leadership. It was risky, but if they didn't take out the command structure, the aliens would just keep coming. Ethan checked his weapon one last time, a relic from the old war, and then turned to his team. "Remember," he said quietly, "we fight together. No one gets left behind." The ground trembled as the alien ships began their descent, their dark silhouettes blocking out the red sky. The soldiers' hands tightened around their weapons. Everyone knew this was the end. But in the face of the alien assault, they stood tall, ready to give everything for the chance of victory. The battle began. The first explosion rocked the ground, followed by a barrage of alien fire. It came in waves, ships unleashing destructive beams of energy that tore through their barricades like they were made of paper. The soldiers fought back with everything they had, firing their weapons in desperation, but the odds were overwhelming. For every alien they took down, two more seemed to take its place. It was chaos. Ethan and his team pushed forward, moving in the smoke and dust of the battlefield, using the cover to get closer to the alien ships. But the alien forces were relentless, using their advanced technology to push them back at every turn. Yet Ethan felt something stir inside him, a fire that had been kindled long ago. Humanity might have been outgunned, but they had something the aliens could never understand. They had heart.ass. The first wave of soldiers reached the alien fleet. They detonated their charges, sending shockwaves through the ground. It was a momentary victory, but it created an opening. The alien ships staggered, their defenses disrupted for just a few seconds. "Move! Now!" Ethan shouted. With the opening, the engineers rushed forward, working frantically to disable the alien weapon systems. The sound of alien ships roaring in pain filled the air as their weapons powered down. It was working, but the price was high. As the team pressed on, more and more soldiers fell to the alien fire. One by one, they were picked off, each loss cutting deeper into Ethan's soul. Yet, he pushed forward. They couldn't stop now. Not when they were this close. Finally, Ethan reached the heart of the alien command center. His team had done their job. The alien leadership was exposed, vulnerable. But just as they were about to strike, a massive alien figure appeared before them, General Vrax, the leader of the alien invasion. "You think you can defeat us?" Vrax's voice boomed, a chilling mix of contempt and amusement. "You are nothing." Ethan didn't hesitate. He lunged forward, his weapon raised, his heart filled with one final, desperate hope. "We are humanity," he yelled, "and we never give up." The last stand had begun, and there was no turning back.